What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is David Hanlon, aka the Laptop Legend, and today was probably the hardest day of trading that I've had in the last, I would say, at least a month. I mean, obviously, you know, there's the short-term memory bias, so I am gonna favor things that happened more recently, but as far as I can remember, I haven't had a day harder than this, at least in the last month, and I'll kind of go into it a little bit more later. But basically, I was up really nicely in the first 30 minutes, up like $2,000 in the first 30 minutes, and then I ended up giving it all back and more. I had to cut a pretty nasty, like $2,800 loss to avoid being down a lot more. I had really big size on a very illiquid play. I would have been down over $15,000 if I hadn't cut that loss, so good thing I stick to my rules. But because of that, I had to dig myself out of an $800 hole 2 hours into the day when I was up $2,000 30 minutes into the day. So it was very frustrating, and I finished the day like $2,000 profit. But I learned a lot of valuable lessons from this that I want to I guess kind of walk through in this video, not only for you guys, but also for me, so that I can really internalize them and take them away moving forward, because these are actually really valuable lessons in terms of how to play breakouts. So I hope you find this video helpful. I'm gonna try to make it fairly short. I don't want to talk too much about you know, kind of the setups for tomorrow. It's mainly just the breakout lessons from today, but we do have a couple setups for tomorrow, so I do want to talk about those too. So that is it. I will dive in my laptop now, and I'll see you guys on the other side. All right, guys, so I'm here on my laptop. This is the chart for ILUS, and this is the one that I really struggled to trade today. And I just want to go over first, you know, kind of the daily chart here. So again, this did have really nice basing down in these areas, and you know, it took off really nicely. Had this nice wedge here, took off again, nice consolidation, third leg up. Nice consolidation here, and now it is on the fourth leg up and broke out past, you know, clearly past these all-time highs. And today was, you know, a very significant breakout level, and I think this thing probably continues. But I guess the main thing that I'm a little bit frustrated about was the fact that, you know, this was a very great play, and I've been talking about this breakout for a while. I even talked about how I wanted to grab pretty big size in the consolidation area and you know, be patient and hold it for several days into this run. Well, I was not able to because of the way that this play turned out happening, if that makes sense. So let me go 5 days, 1 minute, just so you guys can get an idea of this chart here. So, you know, it ran up, and then it was choppy, had some panics, but it held those highs, and it bounced back very quickly. Held those highs, and you know, on this day here, it did panic off again. But this consolidation here was really nice, and you can't really see until you zoom in, but it was like a pretty tight range, man. Like, this was a very tight range here, and I think in general, this is the sign that you should at least start attempting some size, especially if it's close to that breakout level, because you can't take big size if your risk level is not intelligent. And that is my biggest takeaway from this error today. So I'm in a chat room with Jack Kellogg. You guys might not know who he is. You might know who he is. If you're watching me, you may or may not know who he is. He is a multi-million dollar trader. He's over 6 million in profits this year alone. And he started buying it, I don't know exactly where, but he, I'm pretty sure it was in this consolidation area, and he was risking 17.5. So like, that is where you want to be buying, because you're buying in the consolidation, but it's very close to this area here where you can see, you know, it fails to break down after it bounces. You know, it first of all, it double bottoms here. So it fails to break down past 17.5 twice. Well, actually, you know, I guess once, twice, you know, technically maybe 3 times in there, but we'll call it twice. It double bottoms here, and then it never breaks down even below 17.8, and it holds that once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, and it just comes back up and stays in here. So really, what I should have been doing was buying some shares into close here. I think that would have been the smart thing to do, risking this 17.5 level. And for me, that's a little bit scary, because buying shares, holding overnight, when there's a chance this thing could panic off and you know, maybe gap down and go into a huge panic and I have to eat a big loss. I don't really want to do that. You know, I don't want to have a red day because I had to do that. But that is where my green day thinking really gets in my way. So in the future, I'm gonna try to be more aggressive about this. But I wasn't really thinking about that because in my head, I was really thinking this was gonna have some more consolidation days like DPLS did. But you can see there's no area on this chart where it really goes sideways, you know, at least up at this breakout level, where it really goes sideways in that small of a range, that tight of a range for that significant period of time. So you can see here it runs up, you know, it panics, it runs up more, panics, bounces, panics again. Here it sells off, bounces, and then, you know, sells off, bounces. Maybe it holds this range a little bit, but then it panics towards the end of the day. So like, that's not really that great of a level. Here it sells off, bounces huge, sells off, huge, bounces huge, sells off, but then it like kind of calms down here, really just finds a base and starts going sideways. So in the future, I'm really gonna be more, I guess, on the lookout for stocks doing things like this, especially when it's an OTC breakout right at a very, very key breakout level. Because this is where you need to be getting your size. You get it here in this consolidation and you risk off of these lows or maybe even these lows if you want to be extra aggressive. But honestly, I would say these lows because that way, you know, maybe you're buying at 18.1 or you're buying at 18.2. You can get pretty damn big size because you're only risking 17.5 there. Now, if you get really big size, yeah, that could be an ugly loss. But the thing is, it's a risk level that actually makes sense on this chart. And otherwise, you end up having something like this happen where it gaps up, immediately goes into a spike, and suddenly, instead of paying, you know, 18.2 for shares, now you're paying, you know, 20.2 up here, or you're paying 22.2 up here. That's 4 cents more. And if you're buying 1 million shares, that is a $40,000 difference. If you're buying 500,000 shares, that's a $20,000 difference. That's $20,000. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of profit, and that's a lot of difference in your cost basis. And the thing that Jack Kellogg was talking about was that if you size up, you're gonna have to move your risk up, and it's gonna have to be tighter. And if you have tighter risk, you're gonna want to have bigger size. So if you have smaller size, it allows you to have bigger risk. But if you're getting in right at the consolidation level, it allows you to have bigger size and make a lot more money on this because you have a tight, smart risk. Now, my issue was I came in late. I was trading the other stock that was ripping. I'll talk about that in a second. But I really, you know, I got a little bit here, but I couldn't get big size for this, guys. I didn't have 500,000 shares for this or anything. And, you know, I can't buy after a spike like this and then not sell into strength because I'm pretty sure it's going to panic below that at some point. And, you know, it did. So, like, if I bought here, I would have sold for a loss here, you know, cutting my losses. I don't want to be having huge size and then be at the point where I have to sell for a loss because I bought into a spike. So if I want to be selling for a loss, I want to buy in consolidation and sell when it breaks the support. That's how I want to do it. But I ended up having, golly, and I mean, in perspective, it looks really stupid, but I mean, if you go here, it really kind of looked like this thing was basing and maybe was just going to keep ripping. When it was like this, I think I ended up right in this area, guys. I thought it was going to, you know, keep holding this and keep going higher. In this area, I was buying, guys. I bought a lot of shares. I think I ended up dumping a lot here on these red candles. But I had like 730,000 shares of ILUS right here. And that means that for every penny this thing drops, I lost $7,300. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, $7,300. And, you know, I could not afford that. So when it started dumping here, I had to cut it. And there really was not enough liquidity. Another thing that was tough about this was the fact that, like, the spread was really awful. And they wouldn't fill you on the bid. Pretty much if you were trying to buy size, if you put a 50K bid, they just step right over you on level 2. Anything bigger than 50K. So if you're trying to get size, it's like really, really hard to get size on the bid. And if you're trying to buy it on the ask, a lot of times I would try to buy 50K on the ask and they would move it up 2/10 of a share. I mean, 2/10 of a penny a share, which means, you know, if I'm buying 200K shares, that's a $400 increase that I have to pay, which if it then drops and I have to sell and they pull the bid, you know, that's like a $1,000 loss right there. So it's really tough to get size. And that's part of the issue that I had here. But again, the point is I was taking way too big size on this breakout buying after it had already spiked. You can't chase into a breakout with big size because it's not going to be that clean. OTC breakouts are never that clean. They're always choppy like this. And I mean, this thing had a lot of fake outs, guys. This thing had a lot of fake outs. There were so many times in here where this thing dumped and it looked like it was game over. You know, it broke below these lows. It looked like it was game over, and then it ripped back up. It dumped again, ripped back up, dumped again, like, and then just bounced, bro. And I'm telling you, it looked so weak, like there was no level 2 support or anything. And then it just bounced. And also there were a lot of sell, like GTSM was selling so many shares here at like 2155. Like it was insane, man. It was insane. So just between all those factors, man, it was just a very tough play if you were trying to buy up here on this day. Now, this thing could easily run to 25 tomorrow, could run to 27 tomorrow, could run to 30 over the next couple of days. So that's why it's very frustrating for me, because now I don't have size on this, guys. I could have had 1 million shares from this 18 area, and I would be up $40,000 on this trade right now. But instead, I have no shares. This thing's gonna run without me. All I can do is day trade it because I can't buy up here with big size to swing trade it. And man, it's just very frustrating. So I feel like I've kind of gone on long enough on this tangent about ILUS, guys. But moral of the story is, if you want to get size on an OTC breakout, or I guess any breakout, man, get it in consolidation and risk that tight level, because you can't be patient with big size when there's no good risk level. I mean, that's not a good risk level. It breaking this level clearly didn't mean it was over. The only clear risk level here is, you know, in the 18s or 17.5. And you can't risk that with big size from up at 22. You can't risk $50,000 on this play. It's just not worth it. So that's my takeaway on ILUS. Hopefully that was you know, some helpful info for you guys. So the one that I made money on this morning was JZZI. I mean, this just had a beautiful rip. I started taking bigger and bigger size, but eventually they just washed out, and it got pretty lame towards the end of the day. Did have a nice little bounce here, but then just faded off. So I don't expect too much out of this, but it was a nice breaking news play. This was up a couple 100% on the day at one point. So it's good that we are still having these, you know, fairly consistently. Another one was ATXG. This is one that ran yesterday. Someone actually commented it on my YouTube video yesterday, so it was actually on my radar, so shout out to you. I actually already had this stock on my watch list, but I didn't see this move yesterday, so when they said that, I was watching it today, and it did end up spiking up a couple of times. I made some money on this. There was a nice dip buy, I think right here. No, right here. Yeah, I nailed this dip buy right here. I got, I think, like 50,000 shares from there, something like that, maybe 70,000. Yeah, like 70,000 from 525 or something like that. And I was able to sell them, you know, like up here, I'm pretty sure, maybe 5.5 or something. I don't know. It wasn't a huge gain, but when I'm digging myself out of a hole, it was definitely helpful. So I appreciate that. Let's see, what else? AVVH, it felt like it was still kind of churning, like it still wants to go. So, you know, keep that one on your watch list. Another green day, I feel like it's, you know, I feel like it's due for a red day, honestly. I mean, I wish stocks could run straight up, but nothing runs straight up. You know, maybe it gets another leg if their share cancellation comes through. But at this point, you know, this stock has such a history of selling on the news. It would not surprise me if this thing sold off when they actually did the share cancellation. You know, if it went back down to 4s or something. And I kind of hope it does, because that would allow me to buy a lot more shares again. So I would definitely load up on this thing if it sold the news when that actually comes out. So I'm okay with whatever happens on that one. But yeah, you know, it's kind of interesting. You know, some people were dumping shares on this one at some point. I think I also got a dip buy on this in here somewhere. That's pretty much it, guys. That's pretty much it. I'm sure there's some that I'm forgetting, but those are kind of the main ones that were moving. Nothing else really doing anything too crazy, guys. Really nothing. Still hanging on to my MIDI. Still very patient. I still like this chart, man. To me, this still looks primed. I know we're gonna get another run like this at some point, so I'm sitting on my 400-something thousand shares, and we'll make a pretty penny on it when it does run. Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, oh, I guess, well, I do want to talk about TCEHY, just a tiny second. TCEHY. This is the one that I love scalping, guys. Just my favorite to scalp. Today, the daily range and the volume were both really low. And, you know, I swear my Discord is half the volume on this thing. And what's crazy, That's actually kind of wild. If you guys are in the Discord and you made it to the end, Tran, if you're watching this, Big Jeff, if you're watching this, man, Sal, if you're watching this, like, I think this was the day where we found it. And look at the average daily volume on these days versus on these days when we found it, like after that. You think that's a coincidence, bro? I really don't think that's a coincidence. I think we're legitimately like at least a third of this stock's daily volume. That's pretty wild, man. That's pretty wild. But yeah, there wasn't a ton of range. You can see like the candle was pretty much inside this other candle. So there really was not a lot of range on this one today. It was kind of tough to trade. Hopefully we'll see a bounce on this tomorrow, a bigger bounce, get some more volatility in this thing. Maybe a huge bounce and then a nice backside I can short. But all right, guys, so real quick, I just wanted to put this in here. I forgot to record this and then I looked at my phone and saw the tweet. So they, Humbl, for those of you guys who don't know, this was probably the best OTC runner in recent history, if not ever, and it's really beaten down. The chart's really beaten down right now, but it does have some nice basing. And they just put out news that they have officially released their their concert, their ticketing software. So it actually looks pretty cool. Their website is live. I think you can actually buy tickets now. It looks like it's actually cheaper in a lot of things than Ticketmaster. So I think this news will probably send this thing on a little run. Maybe it'll just be a quick spike and a dump. Maybe it'll be a huge spike. Maybe it'll be a multi-day run. I'm not sure, but this is actually going to be probably my second biggest watch tomorrow. Maybe my biggest watch. I'm not sure because you know, there's a lot of Humbl fanatics, and you know, we did get a nice run here, and I think we could get something like that. So I think it wouldn't be hard to see this thing get over $1. And if you get a lot of shares on it, it would definitely be profitable to get a run like that. So just keep this one on your radar, guys. That's it, guys. I definitely butchered today, but thankfully I stuck to my rules and cut my loss, so it didn't turn into a $15,000 loss. And you know, that's why we have rules, man. That's why we cut losses. And now I know for the future, man, that I can't wait for 10 days of consolidation if it's not going to happen like that. You know, I got to take a stab at it. And if it wants to panic again and then consolidate again, all right, I'll cut it, I'll eat the loss, and then I'll rebuy back in when I need to if it does consolidate again. But I don't want to miss runs like this because these are some of the best ways of making money in the stock market. So I'm a little disappointed in myself, but I think it is a great lesson that not everything needs to consolidate for 5 days before it goes on another leg. And I will be using this info in the future to make more profits, and hopefully my analysis of this helped you guys, and it will help you to do the same in the future. So I will see you guys in the next video. Until then, you know the drill. Let's grow better together. Bebé, dime por qué te mientes. No puedes esconder todo lo que tú por mí sientes.